The first thing I saw was my wife slipping into a meeting room with a man, and the door locking behind them. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why she went in there. But I knew this: that door didn't open again for 38 minutes. And the part that hits hardest? I didn't see it happen in real time. I saw it the next morning, on a flash drive, handed to me by building security like it was a bomb they didn't want to hold. So stay with me, hit subscribe, and let me tell you exactly what that camera revealed about what happened behind that door. Before I tell you what that camera showed me, you need to know who I was before everything blew apart. My name's Cole Harrington. I'm 41. I manage operations for a logistics company in Dallas. Not a CEO, not some big shot, just a guy who makes sure trucks show up, orders go out, and people get their paychecks on time. On paper, my life looks solid. House in Plano, mortgage paid every month, decent 401k. Same company for years. I knew the security guards by name. I had my parking spot, my desk, my routine. I wasn't perfect, but I was a good man in the simple ways that matter. I went to work, I paid the bills, I didn't cheat, I didn't go out getting drunk every weekend. No side life, no secret phone, no drama. This job, this was my livelihood. I'd worked my whole life to not worry about the lights staying on. And here's the part that still stings when I say it out loud. I never thought I'd be the guy getting cheated on. Cheating was something that happened to other men. Men who didn't pay attention. Men who deserved it. Not me. Or at least that's what I used to believe. So let me tell you about Lauren, because before she became the woman in that hallway video, she was the person I called home. We met at work. She was in marketing, I was in operations. She was sharp, funny, quick on her feet. The kind of woman who could talk to a room full of executives and then joke with the warehouse guys like she'd known them for years. With her, life felt easier, lighter. We'd grab takeout after long days, sit on the couch in sweatpants and talk about everything. Promotions, saving for kids someday, maybe a little lake house when we were older. At some point, the apartment stopped being just walls and furniture. Home wasn't just a place. Home was her. I honestly thought we were a team. Every decision I made, job moves, overtime, what we spent, what we saved, I made it with us in mind. I built my whole life around us. That's the part people don't see when they hear, she cheated. They see the act. They don't see the years you spent thinking you were safe. And the night of that company party, I still believed I was. At work, people had a name for us. They called us the office power couple. We drove in together most mornings from Plano, coffee in the cup holders, radio low, half awake but together. We'd swipe our badges a few seconds apart, joke about who would survive the day's meetings, then split. She went to marketing, I went to operations. Most days, we'd meet back up for lunch. Same cafeteria, same table. Man, you two really make it work, huh? I heard that line more times than I can count. Guys would laugh and say, my wife would never want to work where I work. Not Lauren. She liked being in the middle of everything. She knew who was getting promoted before they did. She knew what projects were coming months ahead. And I'll be honest, I was proud of us. Proud that I didn't just have a wife, I had a partner in the trenches. Someone who knew my boss's mood before I walked into a meeting. Someone who understood the stress, the deadlines, the politics. I honestly believed we had a solid marriage. Rock steady, safe. Looking back now, it's scary how sure I was. Every story like this has one other man in it. Mine was named Daniel Rourke. Regional director, mid-40s, good suit, good hair, good smile. The kind of guy who shook every hand in the room and remembered your kid's name, even if you only mentioned them once. To me, he was Daniel, my boss's boss. To the company, he was the guy who decided budgets, promotions, restructures. To Lauren, at first, he was a great leader. She'd come home saying, Daniel really believes in me. He thinks I have potential. He'd clap me on the shoulder in the hallway. Cole, my man, keeping us running, huh? He called me buddy, asked about my weekend, told me, guys like you keep this place afloat. I won't lie. Having a regional director know my name felt good, made me feel secure, like my job was a little safer, because he signed my paycheck. At the time, that's all I thought it meant. What I didn't know was that one day I'd look at that same man on a grainy camera screen and realize he'd also signed the end of my marriage. Looking back, Daniel didn't walk into my life alone. He brought a trail of little red flags with him. It started small. Lauren suddenly got really into Saturday morning gym, yoga classes, spin. "I'm trying to take better care of myself," she'd say, kissing me on the forehead before leaving. I was proud of her. Why wouldn't I be? Then the story changed. Some Saturdays, the gym turned into weekend work. "Daniel wants me to come in," she'd say. "We're reviewing campaign numbers before Monday. It's a big opportunity for me." At night, I'd hear her phone buzz. She'd smile at the screen, type fast, then lock it the second I walked into the room. "It's just the team," she'd shrug. "They're stressing about deadlines." And here's the ugly truth, man to man. I felt it. That little twist in your gut when something's off. I saw the shift. The longer Saturdays. The secretive texts. The way his name started showing up in more and more of her sentences. There were red flags. I just didn't want to see them. Because admitting what they meant would have shattered the picture of us I was still clinging to. Every year, our company throws a big holiday party at the Crescent Hotel in Dallas. Fancy place. Valet, chandeliers, open bar, the whole show. For upper management, it's networking. For guys like me, it's survival. You shake the right hands, you laugh at the right jokes, you remind people you exist. Because for guys like me, your job is on the line every year. Lauren was excited for weeks. She ordered a navy dress online, tried it on 3 times, spun in front of the mirror. "You like it?" she asked. "It matches your eyes," I said. And it did. The day of the party, she fussed with her hair in the bathroom, trying different styles, asking, "Up or down? Be honest." I stood in the doorway watching her, thinking, this is my wife. We're walking into that ballroom together. Driving into Dallas that night, dressed up, music low, city lights ahead of us. It almost felt like we were dating again. No bills, no stress, just us. I remember looking over at her and thinking, it's going to be a good night for us. I had no idea that night was about to burn our whole life down. The first hour of that party looked like a postcard version of my life. Lauren walked into the ballroom in that navy dress and every head turned. Her hair was up, a few loose strands around her face, earrings catching the light. She laughed easy, the kind of laugh people drift toward. I watched her from across the room while talking to a couple guys from operations. She was over by the marketing team, drink in hand, telling some story, all eyes on her. And I remember feeling proud. That's my wife. That's the woman who chose me. Then I saw him, Daniel. He slid into the little circle of people around her like he owned the place, which, in a way, he did. He said something, they laughed, and then his hand settled on the small of her back. Casual, familiar, like it had been there before. My chest tightened, just for a second. Then I shut it down. She's just networking, Cole. Don't be that jealous guy. Not here, not at your own company party. So I turned back to the bar, took another sip of my drink, and tried to pretend my heart hadn't just flinched. Time moves funny at parties. 1 minute you're mid-conversation, the next the room feels different, and you can't say why. It was sometime around 10:30 when I realized I hadn't seen that navy dress in a while. I was standing near the bar talking about shipping delays with a guy from logistics, and this thought just dropped into my head. Where's Lauren? I did a quick scan of the ballroom. Dance floor, tables, photo booth area. No Lauren, no navy blue, no familiar laugh cutting through the noise. I pulled out my phone, sent a text. Where'd you disappear to? No reply. I called, rang, went to voicemail. That's when my stomach dropped. I can't explain it any better than this. Something felt off. My gut was screaming, and this time it was louder than my pride. I set my drink down on the bar, untouched. The music kept playing, people kept laughing, but it all felt far away. I told the guys I'll be right back, and walked out of that ballroom to go find my wife. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last normal moment of my marriage. Once I stepped out of that ballroom, the music went dull, like someone turned the world down a notch. I started with the obvious places. Women's restroom by the elevators. I waited outside, watched a few women go in and out. No navy dress, No Lauren. I checked the little patio where people slipped out to smoke. A couple of guys from finance, a woman on her phone, a cloud of cold December air, but not her. I took the stairs down to the lobby, walked up to the front desk and asked, "Hey, have you seen a woman in a navy dress? Dark hair, updo, about this tall?" They glanced around, shrugged, said, "Sorry, sir, it's been pretty busy." That's the thing about nights like that. You think everyone's watching, but no one's really seeing anything. I rode the elevator back up, walked those hallways like I was looking for my own shadow. 10 minutes, 20, 30, every minute that passed, my chest got tighter. For 38 minutes, my wife was nowhere to be found. And some part of me already knew I wasn't just losing track of her in a hotel. I was heading back toward the ballroom, ready to circle the floor again, when I saw her. Lauren stepped out of a side corridor I hadn't even thought to check. Not the main hallway, not near the restrooms, somewhere off to the side, like a service area or conference wing. She was walking fast, almost like she was late for something. Her hair, the neat updo she'd spent an hour on at home, was coming apart, strands hanging down around her face. Her makeup was smudged just enough to look wrong for the time of night. But what hit me hardest wasn't what I saw. It was what I smelled. A strong, woody men's cologne clung to her dress. Not mine, not even close to mine. She spotted me and froze for half a beat, then forced a smile. "I had too much champagne," she said quickly. "I've been in the bathroom trying not to throw up." Bathroom. Right. In a corridor I'd just walked. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady. "You okay?" I asked. "Let's just go home." I didn't call her out. Not there, not yet. But inside, something in me went cold. The ride back to Plano felt longer than the whole night. Lauren buckled in, scrolled her phone for a second, then leaned her head against the window. "I'm exhausted," she mumbled. "I'm just going to close my eyes." A minute later, she was asleep, or pretending to be, hard to tell. The highway was mostly empty. Dallas lights in the rear view, dark Texas road ahead, that soft hum of tires on concrete. Inside the car, it was heavy and quiet. Too quiet. That cologne hit me again. Stronger now, trapped in the small space between us. Not my scent, not even close to anything I've ever worn. It sat in my nose like an accusation. I kept my hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel, jaw tight. Every part of me wanted to shake her awake and demand the truth. But another part of me, the tired, older, more scared part, whispered, "If you're wrong, you'll blow everything up. If you're right, your life is already gone." I felt like a fool, but I knew one thing. I needed proof. Something broke inside me that night, not all the way, but it cracked. When we got home, the routine went on autopilot. Lauren headed straight to the bathroom. I heard the shower turn on, water hitting tile, cabinet doors opening and closing. She was in there longer than usual. Maybe scrubbing off the night, maybe scrubbing off him. I don't know. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my shirt, staring at the floor. That cologne was in my head, in my clothes, in my chest. She came out in pajamas, hair wet, face clean. No smudged makeup now, no messed up bun, just normal Lauren again. She slid into bed like any other night. "Long day," she sighed. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." I lay down beside her, but I couldn't bring myself to reach for her. Touching her suddenly felt like touching a question I wasn't ready to answer. So I picked up my phone instead, opened old texts, scrolled through Saturdays. Gym. Running errands. Daniel needs me to look at something real quick. Looking back, it all adds up, but that night was the first time the pattern really stared back at me. And that was the first time I let the thought in. What if she's not the woman I thought she was? The next morning I was up before my alarm. Lauren was still asleep, breathing slow, face peaceful, like the night before had been completely normal. I stood there for a second just watching her and felt this weird mix of love, anger, and emptiness. I showered, dressed, grabbed my keys. "I'm heading in early," I said quietly. She mumbled something and rolled over. The drive into Dallas felt mechanical. Same route, same exits, just quieter. No radio this time, just me and my thoughts, replaying that cologne, that hallway, that fake bathroom story. I got to the building around 7:30. The lobby was almost empty. Neon lights humming, cleaning crew finishing up, faint smell of burnt coffee from the machine by the elevators. I swiped my badge, rode up, walked down that familiar hallway to my office. Computer on, inbox open. Emails from people who had no idea my life was falling apart. I tried to read them, tried to focus on shipping delays and inventory reports, but my brain kept drifting. I wasn't really working. I was just waiting. For what? I didn't know yet. I just knew something was coming. And whatever it wasn't going to be good. I was staring at the same email for the third time when I felt a hand rest gently on my shoulder. It wasn't a coworker's casual pat. It was heavier, hesitant. I turned around and saw Frank Delgado, our night security guy. Late 50s, gray hair, tired eyes, always polite. I'd known him for years in that hallway kind of way. "Morning, Mr. Harrington," he said, voice lower than usual. "Hey, Frank," I answered. "You all right?" He glanced down the hall like he wanted to make sure no one was watching, then stepped into my office and closed the door behind him. That's when my stomach tightened. "You've always been decent to me," he started. "Most folks just walk past like I'm part of the furniture. You're not like that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive, held it for a second like it burned. "Security footage from last night," he said quietly. You need to see this." My throat went dry. "What is it, Frank?" He shook his head, eyes full of sympathy. "I'm sorry, sir. I really am." Then he placed the flash drive in my hand. And just like that, whatever I'd been waiting for had arrived. As soon as Frank left, I locked my office door, actually turned the deadbolt. I'd never done that before. I pulled the blinds halfway shut, sat down, and plugged the flash drive into my computer. It popped up in a second. One folder, 3 video files, all labeled with the same date as the party, all time-stamped between 10 and 11 at night. My mouse hovered over the first file. My hand was shaking just enough for me to notice. Part of me wanted to yank the drive out, pretend this never happened, just go back to work, keep my head down, stay in my little bubble of maybe it was nothing. But that bubble had already popped the second I smelled that cologne. I took a breath. Whatever this is, I told myself, I need to know. Not for drama, not for revenge, for my own sanity, for the man who had to look in the mirror tomorrow. I clicked on the first file. The screen went black for a second. Then a grainy, still image appeared. A quiet hallway I recognized but never really noticed before. And then the footage started to move. It was the 12th floor hallway, admin level, empty after hours. No sound, just the hum of bad security camera quality. Date in the corner. Timestamp, 10:26 p.m. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Just doors, carpet, fluorescent light. Then she walked into frame. Lauren, same navy dress, same heels. Even in black and white, I knew exactly who I was looking at. You don't mistake your own wife, even on a blurry screen. She wasn't alone. Right beside her, close enough their shoulders brushed, was Daniel Rourke, regional director, my buddy. His hand was on her waist, not guiding her like a boss, resting there, comfortable, familiar. They stopped in front of a meeting room door like they'd done it 100 times. Daniel glanced up and down the hallway, making sure no one was around. Then he pulled out his badge, swiped the reader, and opened the door. Lauren stepped in first. He followed, still right behind her, hand not leaving her. The door closed at 10:27 p.m. I just stared at the screen, feeling it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was my wife walking willingly out of our marriage and into that room. I don't know how long I stared at that first clip, long enough for my mouth to go dry. Then I clicked on the second file. Same hallway, same camera. Timestamp, 11:05 p.m. The meeting room door opened. Daniel stepped out first. He looked relaxed, smoothed his tie, adjusted his jacket, like he'd just finished a presentation instead of whatever he'd done. His face had that easy, satisfied look I'd seen 100 times in meetings when deals went his way. Then Lauren stepped out. Her hair was a mess now, falling out of the style she'd been so proud of a few hours earlier. She was holding her heels in one hand, hopping slightly as she tried to slip them back on. Her dress was crooked, bunched at the waist. She yanked it down, fingers fumbling. Daniel turned back toward her, said something I couldn't hear. Then he reached out and touched her face. Not a friendly touch, not a boss checking on an employee. The kind of touch you don't fake. They stood there for a second in that empty hallway, wrapped in silence and bad camera quality. And then they walked off in opposite directions like they hadn't just spent 38 minutes behind that door together. My hands felt numb on the mouse, but I opened the third file anyway. Different angle this time. Ground floor, entrance area, timestamp a little later that night. First, I saw Daniel walking out through the main doors, coat over his arm, phone in his hand. He paused at the front desk, flashed that same polished smile he used on everyone. He waved at security like it was just another late night at the office. Nothing about him said, "I just walked a married woman into a meeting room." Then another camera view. Side door, lower level. Lauren walking out alone, head down, bag on her shoulder, heading straight for the parking garage without looking at anyone. No hug goodbye, no awkward small talk, just clean separation, practiced distance. I leaned back in my chair, eyes still locked on the screen even after the footage stopped. No yelling, no sound, no dramatic music, just 3 quiet clips, timestamps in the corner, and 2 people who thought no one was watching. And sitting there in that empty office, it hit me. 9 years of marriage had just been reduced to 3 silent videos on a flash drive. That was the moment it all finally fell all the way down. I always thought if I'd ever caught someone cheating on me, I'd lose it. Punch a wall, break something, scream. I didn't do any of that. I just sat there, staring at the black screen after the last video ended, my own face faint in the reflection. I looked older, tired, like someone had hit fast forward on my life overnight. Then the practical part of my brain kicked in, the part that keeps trucks moving and numbers straight. I copied all 3 videos off the flash drive, saved them to my desktop, then to another folder, then to a second USB I had in my drawer. I emailed a copy to my personal account, subject line, backups, no explanation. When I finally shut the screen off, the office was quiet enough that I could hear my own breathing. I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I felt this cold, sharp clarity cut through the fog. My marriage was not what I thought it was. That was done. But my job, my future, my dignity, those were still mine to protect. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to act on rage. If I was going to move, I was going to move with facts. The videos proved what happened that night, but my gut kept whispering, this isn't the first time. So I picked up my phone and called the only person in the building I trusted right then. "Frank, it's Cole," he answered on the first ring. "I figured you might call," he said quietly. I asked him about access logs, who badged in and out on weekends. He sighed, and that sound told me more than any word. "I already checked," he admitted. "Thought you'd want to know." From July on, almost every Saturday morning, 2 names showed up in the system within minutes of each other. Lauren Mercer, Daniel Rourke. Reason given at the front desk? Picking up marketing documents. Reviewing reports. On paper, it looked harmless. In my head, Saturdays started replaying like a cruel little highlight reel. Her in gym clothes, kissing me goodbye. Me telling her, "Have a good workout." Her texting, running late, grabbed coffee with the team. It wasn't one bad decision at a company party. It was a 5-month routine. 5 months of Saturdays where I thought my wife was at the gym, and she was walking into a quiet building with my boss. After I hung up with Frank, I just sat there. Office door closed, computer screen dark. Dallas skyline stretched out beyond the window like nothing had happened. The city looked the same. I didn't. I leaned back in my chair and stared at my own reflection in the glass. And this one question kept looping in my head. How many Saturdays did I spend believing she was at the gym? I could see it so clearly. Lauren in leggings and a hoodie, tying her shoes by the door, kissing me on the cheek. "Be back in a couple hours, okay?" Me telling her, "Proud of you, get that workout in." While she drove not to a gym, but to him. That's the part that cuts deepest. Not just the sex, the lies, the way she weaponized my trust against me. I gave her my trust, I thought, and she gave me stories. I sat there a long time, watching the traffic move across the city, feeling something harden inside me. Finally, I said it out loud, just to hear it. Tonight, I'm done pretending I don't know. There's a point where you stop being confused and start being done. I left work earlier than usual that day, didn't tell anyone why, didn't owe them that. The drive home felt strangely calm. Decision has a way of quieting the noise. When I walked into the house, it looked exactly like any other evening. Shoes by the door, her mug on the counter, our life still standing like it wasn't already cracked through the middle. I went straight to the living room, hooked my laptop up to the TV, opened the folder with the 3 videos, hit pause at the first frame, tested the sound even though there wasn't any. I just needed to know everything worked. Then I saw it. Our wedding photo on the shelf across from the TV. Younger me in a suit, smiling like an idiot. Lauren in white, looking at me like I was her whole world. I stared at that picture and thought, that man had no idea what was coming. I sat down on the couch and waited, listened to the clock in the hallway, checked the time on my phone. Every minute until she walked through that front door felt like an hour. I wasn't nervous anymore. I was just done. I heard the garage door open before I heard her. Keys in the bowl, heels on the tile, the same little rhythm I'd heard 1,000 times. She walked into the living room, purse over her shoulder, smiling like this was any other Tuesday. "Hey," she said, dropping her keys. "How was your day?" I was already sitting on the couch, TV on, screen paused on that 12th floor hallway. "Lauren," I said, voice steady, "sit down. We need to talk." She frowned a little, confused, but sat at the other end of the couch. "What's going on?" I didn't answer. I just picked up the remote and hit play. The room went quiet except for the soft hum of the TV. The hallway appeared. The timestamp. 10:26 p.m. We both watched as she walked into frame with Daniel at her side, his hand on her waist, the two of them going into that meeting room together. I didn't look at her right away. I watched the screen. When I finally turned my head, her face was white, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. She swallowed hard and whispered, "Cole, I can explain." And that sentence right there almost made me laugh. "I can explain," she repeated, voice shaking now. She started talking fast. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking straight." I let her run with it for a minute. All the usual lines. "It just happened. It's not what it looks like. It's complicated." Then right on cue, she turned it back on me. "You were distant, Cole. You were always working. You never really saw me anymore." I just sat there, letting the words bounce off. No yelling, no crying, just done. When she finally ran out of air, I asked one question. "Every Saturday since July was a mistake too?" She froze, didn't even blink. "I've got the entry logs," I said quietly. "Lauren Mercer, Daniel Rourke, almost every Saturday, 9 a.m. in, 11 or 12 out, picking up marketing documents, reviewing reports." Her shoulders dropped. The fight went out of her eyes. "This wasn't one bad night," I said. "This was a schedule." She covered her face with her hands and started to sob, but there was nothing left for me to protect. The story she was trying to sell couldn't survive the timestamps. She reached for me. "Cole, please," she cried, sliding closer on the couch, hand coming toward my arm like she could pull this back with one touch. I stood up. Instinct. My body moved before my brain did. "Don't," I said. My voice came out low, flat. "Don't come near me." She froze, hand still hanging in the air. I looked at her, really looked at her. Same face, same eyes. Same woman I'd called my wife for 9 years, but I couldn't unsee that hallway, that door, his hand on her walking in. "You walked into that room as my wife," I said slowly. "You walked out as a stranger." She shook her head, sobbing. "We can fix this, Cole. We can go to counseling. We can—" "No," I cut in. "This marriage is over." No shouting, no name-calling, no plates thrown, no doors slammed. Just a line drawn so clear even she couldn't pretend not to see it. I picked up the remote, turned the TV off, and set it on the table. The room went quiet. Then I walked out, leaving her alone on the couch with a blank screen and everything she'd just destroyed. Here's the thing a lot of people don't understand. Cheating doesn't just hit your heart, it hits your life. your job, your future. Daniel wasn't just some random guy. He was upper management. If I lost it and made a scene at work, I wouldn't just be the cheated husband. I'd be the problem, the liability. So instead of going after him in the office, I went looking for someone who had just as much to lose as I did. His wife. I knew her name, Elaine Rourke, from company events. I also knew she was a family law attorney. I typed her name into Google with Dallas Family Law Firm, and her profile popped right up. Professional headshot, impressive resume, office number listed. I sat there for a second, staring at the screen, then picked up the phone. "Mrs. Rourke?" I said when she answered. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Cole Harrington," I replied. "I work with your husband, and I have information about him that you deserve to know." Silence. Then a slow, careful, "Go on." "I'd rather do this in person," I said. "Can you meet me at La La Land Kind Cafe tomorrow?" That was the moment it stopped being just my private disaster and started becoming truth with consequences. We met the next afternoon at La La Land Kind Cafe in Dallas. Bright place, yellow cups, people working on laptops like the world wasn't collapsing for anybody. Elaine walked in right on time. Blazer, dark jeans, hair pulled back, no drama, no mascara streaks, just composed. She spotted me, came over, and held out her hand. "Mr. Harrington?" "Cole," I said. "Thanks for coming." We sat, made small talk for maybe 30 seconds, both pretending this was normal. Then I put the flash drive on the table, next to a thin stack of printed logs. "This is from building security," I said. "Footage from the night of the holiday party, and entry records from the last few months." She plugged the drive into her laptop, put in earbuds, and watched. I sat there, staring at the steam rising from my coffee. When she finished, she didn't cry. Her face went from shocked to something colder, sharper. She closed the laptop, rested her hands around her cup, and said quietly, "Thank you for telling me. Most men in your position would just file for divorce and move on quietly." I nodded once. "He destroyed my marriage," I said. "I figured you deserved to know he's destroyed yours too." Elaine wasn't just a hurt wife. She was a family law attorney who'd just been handed a complete case file. She moved fast. Within days, she'd started the divorce process on her end, contested, with everything that implied. Alimony, child support, custody, the works. But she didn't stop there. She also contacted HR at our company, requested a formal meeting, brought the videos, the logs, the fact that Daniel was a regional director and Lauren reported into the chain he controlled. An inappropriate relationship with a subordinate is what they call it in policy documents. Abuse of power, conflict of interest, exposure risk. For HR, it wasn't just gossip. It was liability. The company opened an internal investigation. Emails were pulled, calendars reviewed. People quietly called into conference rooms and asked pointed questions. Daniel got summoned to HR and legal. No charm, no hallway smile, just him, a table, and all the ways his own behavior could now hurt the company. As for me, I only showed up when they needed my statement. I answered what they asked. Clear, short, no extra commentary. By then, it wasn't just my private hell anymore. It was an official problem with a case number and a paper trail. The investigation didn't take long. When you mix power, emails, access logs, and security footage, there's only so much spin a guy can put on it. Word came down. Daniel had violated company policy. Inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, abusive position, all the phrases you only ever read in HR training slides, until they're about someone you know. They called him into a conference room with HR and legal. He got the choice: resign quietly, for personal reasons, or be fired for cause. He took the resignation. On paper, it looked clean. In reality, everyone knew. You could feel it in the hallways. The whispers that stopped when a manager walked by, the half-hidden glances toward his old office. The day he left, I happened to be in the lobby. Didn't plan it, just timing. I saw him walk out carrying one cardboard box, a plant, a couple of frames, some binders. No fanfare, no handshake line, just a man who thought he was untouchable doing the longest walk of shame of his life. He didn't see me. Or if he did, he pretended not to. And I stood there, hands in my pockets, not proud, not gloating, just finished. They didn't fire Lauren. Companies like to play it balanced on paper. Instead, a few weeks after everything broke, an email went out about restructuring, some roles being realigned to another branch. Her name was on that list. Officially, she was being transferred. Unofficially, everyone understood. People changed around her. Coworkers who used to stop by her desk, laugh with her, ask her advice, now gave short nods in the hallway and kept walking. Conversations died when she stepped into the break room. You can feel judgment even when no one says the words out loud. She told me once, in passing, that she could hear whispers all the way to the parking lot. At first, I think she tried to push through it. New branch, fresh start, whatever story she told herself. 3 weeks after that transfer email, another one went out. This one was shorter. Please join us in wishing Lauren Mercer the best as she moves on to new opportunities. No goodbye party, no cake, no group photo. I read the email at my desk, stared at it for a minute, then clicked it closed. I didn't feel happy, didn't feel sad. If anything, I just thought, actions have a way of circling back. The legal part moved faster than I expected. No kids, no big fight over who gets what. Just lawyers, paperwork, and a pile of evidence no one could argue with. My attorney filed on grounds of adultery and handed over the videos, the logs, the whole rotten record. Her lawyer didn't push back much. There wasn't a lot to push. We met at the courthouse to sign the final papers. Neutral room, neutral walls, neutral faces. Lauren sat across from me, eyes red, but empty. Not angry, not begging, just hollow, like she'd already accepted the crash. The agreement was simple. I kept the house. I kept the better car. I kept most of the savings we'd built. She signed where they told her to sign. Pen scratching paper, one line at a time, closing doors we both thought would never shut. When it was my turn, I added my signature, pushed the last document forward, and stood up. We're done, I said quietly. That's all. No hug. No, maybe someday. Just two people walking out of the same room in completely different directions, with a judge's stamp closing what a camera had already killed. 7 months is a strange amount of time. Long enough that life doesn't feel like it's on fire anymore. Short enough that you still smell smoke sometimes. I sold the house. Too many ghosts in those walls. Saturday mornings, fake gym bags, the bed we shared, the couch where I pressed play. I moved into a smaller place in a quieter part of town. Less space, more peace. I dropped some weight without really trying. Stress, long walks, finally cooking for one instead of two. I let my beard grow out. Lauren used to hate it. Now I kept it just because it felt like mine. People at work said I looked different. Calmer. Sharper. A little older in the eyes maybe, but steadier. The rage didn't stay forever. It burned hot, then cooled. And somewhere along the way, hate turned into something else. Into indifference. And let me tell you something most guys don't realize at first. The anger feels powerful, but it chains you to them. The day I stopped caring what she was doing was the day I finally felt free. The anger cooled into indifference. And indifference is so much more freeing than hate. One unexpected thing about all of this, work became simpler, not easier, just clearer. I showed up, did my job, hit my numbers, didn't gossip, didn't badmouth anyone. I let the facts speak for themselves there too. People watched how I handled it. They saw I didn't blow up in the office, didn't send rage emails, didn't drag coworkers into my mess. I think that mattered more than I realized at the time. A few months after everything settled, my manager called me in. They were creating a new senior operations role. Not Daniel's old job. Someone external ended up in that seat, but a step up. More responsibility, better pay. A corner office with an actual view instead of a wall. We've noticed how you've carried yourself, he said. You kept this place running through a lot. We trust you. That word, trust, hit different after everything. The raise was nice, the title was nice. But the part that really landed was this. I hadn't needed to destroy anyone's life to move forward. His fall wasn't my promotion. My work was. My consistency was. And I realized the real win wasn't watching him go down. It was building a life that had nothing to do with him at all. It happened on a random Saturday. No anniversary. No important date, just life. I was at Kroger, doing what divorced men do, pushing a cart, checking prices, pretending I knew what to buy for the week. Apples, chicken, coffee, the usual. I turned into the produce aisle, reached for a bag of Honeycrisp, and saw her. Lauren. For a second, my brain didn't register it was her. She looked smaller somehow, thinner, hair pulled back in a quick, lazy tie, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She wasn't dressed like the polished corporate version I used to see. Just jeans, a worn sweatshirt, sneakers. Her cart caught my eye. Milk, bread, store-brand cereal, cheap pasta. None of the organic, premium, top-shelf things she used to insist on. She looked up at the same moment I did. Our eyes met across the apples. Time didn't flash before my eyes. There was no dramatic music. Just one sharp, quiet second where the past and the present stood face to face under bad grocery store lighting. Her lips parted like she was about to say my name. And in that tiny, suspended moment, I realized I had a choice about what kind of man I was going to be next. Her mouth moved first. Cole, I didn't let the rest land. I didn't want to hear sorry, or how are you, or whatever line she'd spent 7 months rehearsing in her head. I picked up the apples I'd been holding, dropped them into my cart, and turned away. No words, no nod, no polite small talk for old time's sake. Just a simple decision. I wasn't giving her one more piece of me. I pushed the cart down the aisle, feeling her eyes on my back. No footsteps following. No voice calling my name. Just that thick, awkward silence you get when two people know exactly what happened, and know there is nothing left to say. Inside, it didn't feel like victory. It felt clean. In that moment, she wasn't my ex-wife, or the woman who cheated on me. She was just another stranger in a grocery store who happened to know parts of my life she'd never be invited into again. I paid for my groceries, walked out of Kroger, didn't look back. That quiet walk to my car was the real goodbye. A few weeks after that, on a Monday, I was at my desk going through the usual mess, emails, reports, numbers that never stop. My phone buzzed. Text from a number saved as Frank. Security. Mr. Harrington, it read, thought you should know. Daniel Rourke was arrested yesterday. DUI, third offense. He added a link to a local news clip. Mugshot, short article. Former executive, prior incidents, court date pending. I sat there for a second, just looking at his face on the screen. No suit, no perfect hair, just another middle-aged guy who'd pushed his luck too many times and finally hit the wall. I thought about the divorce he was fighting, the alimony, the child support, the career that had already gone off a cliff. I typed back, "Thanks for letting me know, Frank." Then I put the phone face down and went back to the spreadsheet I was working on. I didn't feel happy, didn't feel sorry. I felt nothing. And that's when it hit me. Not that his life was a mess now, but that mine wasn't tied to his anymore. His fall didn't lift me. My own choices did. If you've been cheated on, listen to me for a second, because I know exactly where your head goes. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Is it my fault? I went through all of that, over and over. Here's the truth I had to choke down the hard way. Betrayal doesn't define you. It defines them. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was a perfect husband. I wasn't. I worked long hours. I got tired. I missed hints. I dropped the ball on date nights. But I can say this, hand on my heart, I wasn't perfect, but I didn't deserve this. Cheating wasn't my punishment. It was her choice. His choice. You don't control what someone else does behind closed doors. You only control how you respond when the door finally swings open. I could have smashed things, started fights at work, thrown my whole life in the fire just to show I was hurt. Instead, I protected what I could. My money, my job, my future, my name. You want to know what real revenge looks like? The best revenge is a life where they don't matter anymore. This part is for the guys who hear a story like mine and don't say a word, but feel it in their gut. Men don't talk about this stuff. We make jokes, we shrug it off, we say it is what it is. Meanwhile, we're walking around feeling like idiots because someone we trusted made a fool out of us. I know that feeling, like the whole world is in on a joke and the punchline is you. So let me say this clearly. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it hits your ego. Yeah, it makes you question your worth as a man. But hear me, you are not weak because someone lied to you. You are not stupid because you loved somebody and believed them. As a man, you still have your pride. Hold on to that. Don't waste years stalking their social media, replaying every detail, feeding the anger like it's all you've got left. Use that energy to rebuild your body, your money, your peace. One day, you'll wake up and realize you just don't care anymore. Not because it didn't matter, but because you chose yourself and kept moving. So that's the whole road. A company party, 38 missing minutes, a flash drive that felt heavier than a bomb, 3 silent videos that cracked 9 years of marriage clean down the middle. But here's the part I never told anyone. The night it all happened, the man I thought I was died quietly in that office chair, lit only by the glow of a security camera playback. And the man I became, he didn't show up until the next morning, when I looked in the mirror and finally said, I'm done losing myself over people who lie. Selling the old house, rebuilding my career, learning how to sleep again. Those weren't just steps forward. They were funerals, little burials of every version of me that tried to hold on to something already dead. And somewhere along the way, I realized something simple but sharp enough to cut. Betrayal doesn't break you. It just shows you who never deserved the version of you they destroyed. So let me end with this. If you were standing in that hallway with me, USB in your hand, truth in your face, would you burn everything down? Or would you walk away and build a life they never get to enter again? Pick your side in the comments. And if you know a man who needs this, don't keep it to yourself.